In this lecture, we're going to talk a little bit about the diversity of the domain Archaea, and we're going to talk about two different phyla that exist within that domain, the Euryarchaeota and the Crenarchaeota, and some members of these different groups and some special properties that they have, where they live, and some kind of things that they do. So Archaea are broken down into two major phyla, the Crenarchaeota and the Euryarchaeota. And you can see those here. Euryarchaeota are all of these groups signified by the orange, and the Crenarchaeota are the ones in green down here. And so Crenarchaeota we generally think of as the ancestral or the older Archaea, and Euryarchaeota are the ones that are able to occupy more of the broad habitats and have more of a broad range of where they can live and survive. So we're going to first talk about members of the phylum Crenarchaeota. Most members of this phylum fall into the category of thermophile or temperature lover. In particular, a lot of these are actually hyperthermophiles or bacteria or archaea that love extremely high temperatures. And so down here you can actually see a chart that shows the growth of bacteria at different temperatures. And so the growth of bacteria, that kind of maximal point of each peak, would be the preferred growth temperature of a particular group of bacteria. And you can see that the thermophiles and the hypothermophiles like higher temperatures. Thermophiles thrive the most around kind of temperature 65 degrees Celsius, and hyperthermophiles thrive at an even higher temperature of about 95 degrees Celsius. So these guys really like heat. They also are highly dependent on sulfur for their metabolism and kind of their main source of food. So one place we tend to find members of the Crenarchaeota phylum are in areas like this geyser here at Yellowstone. This is one of the places where they were first discovered. You can see some other members of this phylum here, including some parasitic members of the phylum down here in red and green. So in addition to just the hyperthermophiles, there are also some members of the phylum Crenarchaeota that are considered thermoacidophiles. So they're a thermophile. They like the temperature of around 80 degrees Celsius, but they also really like acidic conditions or low pH, particularly a pH of 2 or 3. And this is around the same pH that your stomach acid is. So this is an extremely acidic environment. There are some members of the thermoacidophile kind of group down here. And one thing that helps them survive both these super high temperatures and this extremely low pH are a lot of transporters that exist on the outside of the archaeal cell that are designed to help remove these hydrogen ions or all of these acidic components back out into the environment. And so we tend to think about the Crenarchaeota as the true extremophiles. We've got hyperthermophiles that love really high temperatures, and we've got thermoacidophiles that love a high temperature and a low pH. But there are some members of domain Archaea, particularly in this phylum, Euryarchaeota, that are more diverse in the metabolisms that they use. They don't depend just on sulfur, but they can actually metabolize other things. And they're more diverse in where they can live. They don't have to live in these high temperatures or extremely acidic environments. So some members of the Euryarchaeota phylum are methanogens, which are archaea that are able of producing methane gas from hydrogen gas and carbon dioxide. They usually do this in an anaerobic manner, which means they don't require any oxygen to do it. And methane gas is practically useful, particularly by some bacteria or archaea who actually use methane gas as their source of energy. So here you can actually see two organisms living together. We have methanotrophic archaea in the center in red. They're able to make methane gas. And then there are green bacteria on the outside that are actually able to use that methane gas as a source of energy. And so they live together in this association and benefiting off each other. And one other group inside the phylum Euryarchaeota are the extreme halophiles. And a halophile is a salt lover. And we sometimes refer to these extreme halophiles as Haloarchaea. They are absolutely dependent on very high concentrations of salt, over 8% of salt in the medium or 1.5 molar salt concentration. And so just for reference, any plates that we generally grow bacteria on in the lab have about 1% NaCl or 1% salt. So this is a much higher concentration of salt that these archaea enjoy and like, and they actually require to grow. They're unable to grow in places that don't have that level of salt. And so here you can actually see some of those Haloarchaea in red and pink and orange growing in a saltwater estuary where they have access to that salt. And that red pinkish color is common in Haloarchaea. And the thing that gives them that red pinkish color is a pigment called Archaeorhodopsin. And you can see some of those colonies, pink and red, closer up here in this image. And what Archaeorhodopsin does for these Haloarchaea is it works sort of like chlorophyll does in plants. It's able to capture light energy because it's a pigment, and then that energy can be used to create a hydrogen ion gradient that's used to make ATP. So we have Bacteriorhodopsin or Archaeorhodopsin in this case, giving the archaea that pink color. Sunlight can be captured to actually end up generating ATP. For this type of archaea to use for all of its energy needs.